What's up, YouTube? It's Stevie, and I'm back in Roblox Islands, and today we're going to be comparing the new items we just got. We got the new Opal sword, aka the Dragonslayer. So, you can see this crazy cool-looking weapon. We also have the Opal Pickaxe, and we have the Opal Axe. We're going to be comparing these weapons to some of the other similar weapons. I'm not going to go through every single item because the devs do change items all the time, and I don't really want to go into too much detail on stats because by the time I post my video on these, they're out of date. So, we're going to be comparing these items mostly on the tools. We'll compare the tools real quick, and then I will be talking a little bit about the Dragonslayer, whether or not it's worth getting, for the difficulty. In general, I would say all weapons and all items are worth getting at some point just for, adding to your collection, but at some point too, it doesn't make sense to really go all the way out of your way if something else is just as good as this weapon. So before I begin, if you could do me a solid and hit that like button and smash the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. So let's go ahead and start off with this weapon here. So it is a heavy melee weapon. What does that mean? Well, there's different types of weapons. So you can see here we got light melee. So iron sword here, stone sword, wooden sword. It also includes the cutlass, the rage blade, somewhere around here. Oh, it's in my inventory. The rage blade. The captain's rapier is a light melee. Oddly enough, the only great sword that is still considered a light melee is the diamond great sword. Somehow this still fits into the light melee, even though this great sword over here is considered a very heavy sword. So it does fall in the heavy melee, just like this new weapon here, the Dragonslayer. So these weapons, there's different categories. Heavy melee is typically hammers, but it is including, like I said, the great sword as well as this new one. I'm not going to cover any of the magic weapons. We got the staff of Godzilla, we got the static scepter, we have all kinds of. Oh, I totally missed the cactus spike. That is a light melee as well. So we're going to go and start out with the melee weapons or heavy melee weapons. We're not going to compare to swords and such. Like I said, the categories here, you have light melee. I have level 80 there. So if I were bouncing between these two, it's clearly way off. Like my base damage on this is almost 7 more than my heavy. It's going to throw off the comparison here. Now, if they were equal, skills, then I would actually be able to show you both side to side. So I'm going to focus on the heavy melee for a bit here. We'll go ahead and start with the lowest in one, and we're going to kind of creep upwards to the bigger one. So we'll do the Kong's axe. We'll do the Gilded Steel hammer. We're going to do the obsidian great sword. We're going to do the diamond war hammer. We're going to do the new Dragonslayer. I'll also show a little bit of the captain's rapier. I don't know if that's going to get tweaked at any point, but this is a really good one because this is one of my favorite melee weapons currently. And, again, we're going to have to keep in mind the base damage with this is going to be 7 points higher, okay? Almost 7 hit points higher than my heavy melee right now. So we got to keep that in mind anytime we're doing any kind of damage comparisons. And then after that, we're going to go into the tools. So let's go over to Buffcore Island and test this out. So starting with the iron war axe here, you're going to see how much damage we make. We do 26 for our, looks like our base is 26. And then we can sometimes crit to 34. So 26 to 34 for the war axe. It's one of the cheapest ones to make. I believe it only requires like crystallized iron and some other stuff. So it's actually a really good entry level. Especially if you're just trying to level up your heavy melee. This is a good weapon to do it with. The second best weapon here is going to be your Kong axe. And this was a limited item. It was free. So you can see here it's doing 27 to 35. You get a lot of crits on this one. I feel like this one's a very high crit weapon. Again, we do have about, I think we have like a 9 to 10 base damage buff here because of our level with heavy melee. It's doing 27 to 35. Pretty good. Again, compared to that to the original here, 26 to 34. It's just 1 point higher than the iron war axe. Now let's go to the Gilded Steel hammer. This is one of the OG weapons in the game. Hasn't really been changed much in a long time. So it's 35 to 47 here. It's not bad. And basically it's at the high end of the Kong war axe, right? If you think about it, it's at the high, it's at the crit range. The base is actually the crit. So it's 47 points on that one. Now let's go switch over to the obsidian great sword here. So we're doing 46, so 34 to 46 on this one. This one's just 1 point damage under the Gilded Steel Warhammer. So it's not quite as good as a Gilded Steel Warhammer, and it's actually pretty easy to get. So it doesn't take that long to grind for. I think it's like 5 runs against the quest, so maybe like 5 hours you can get this weapon. It's not that hard. Gilded Steel Hammer was pretty hard. I remember grinding many hours for that hammer. So it's about the same damage. Now let's switch over to the Diamond Warhammer. This one was pretty hard to get. Now the one thing to note about this weapon here, as well as the Gilded Steel Hammer, is they do require XP. I think the Iron War Axe does too. But this one, if you go to your skills, you have to unlock these to even make them. You don't have to unlock them to use them. So if you trade for them, you can still use them. But it's just a recipe, so you can't actually make these until you level up to 46. So this weapon here is doing between 42 base to 58. So 42 to 58. So like the baseline here is pretty close to the high end of the obsidian. This weapon here, as well as the Gilded Steel Hammer. So this weapon is like just 1 generation higher. So you can see a lot better. 42, 58, much better. Really good knockback too. So 42 to 58 for that one. Now here's where you're going to get blown away away by this Dragonslayer. Check this out. So again, recapping, this one, it was doing 42 on the low end, 58 on the high end. Now check this out. So baseline, we're doing 55 to 77. 55 base to 77 crit. Huge impact. We're talking almost 20, not quite, but almost 20 more. So 55 is only like, that's only like 13 higher on the base. But once you start getting those crits, the crit is way higher. Because remember, the diamond's high end is 58. The diamond Warhammer was only 58. So this one's actually doing a lot more for us. Really great sword. The next thing we need to do is let's go over to the Captain's Rapier. Just a reminder, I'm doing a lot more with this. So let's go check. I'm going to show you the base damage here. So this one's doing almost 10 damage, right? The other one over here is doing much more than that. So it's more like 6 higher, okay? We're about 6 higher. So the one thing you'll notice is it's not going to do as much damage. So we're doing 46 here, baseline, to 61. So 46 to 61, right? So clear indication here, if I were to level up my heavy melee to the same as light melee, that thing would be smoking all of my light melee weapons, right? And it makes sense. Like heavy should technically be way more damage. It should actually be slower too, like slower swings, I think, if we're really getting into like the minutia of like types of weapons. But the thing you're going to notice with the rapier is it does have this 20% better luck in combat. And that's why I really prefer this weapon. If I'm going to do any kind of melee, I'm going to use this one because I'm going to get better loot. I know for a fact that I've gotten 2 eggs from having this for dragons. I know I've gotten like 6 tokens instead of 5. So I typically get a lot more of the loot. I don't know if the drop, like the rarity drop rate increases at all. I'm still trying to confirm that with devs. But currently what I'm seeing with this one is I'm going to get a lot more loot in general if I'm using this weapon. So, you know, if it takes like 5 more hits, I don't really mind if I'm really going for loot. Then I don't mind that it takes a little longer to kill something if I have a better chance to get the items. But if I'm trying to kill something fast, then I'm, you know, clearly going to use a better weapon. Now, magic weapons have been for the longest time the best damage dealing weapons. I don't know how long they will be because, you know, clearly there's a big gap between these weapons for damage. It's almost like, you know, magic weapons are the only way to go truly if you want to do a lot of damage, whereas these swords and such are not as good, especially for the risk we take. You know, the magic is range, so of course you're at a safe distance, whereas these, you got to risk a lot more damage. It requires a lot more skill, right? Who knows? I'm not really going to get into the magic weapons because of that. I have a feeling they may change. So if they do, then, you know, this video would be pretty out of date very quickly. Again, as far as the question of whether or not this weapon's worth it, I would say, you know, considering as long as you can level up your heavy melee, this is going to definitely be one of your best melee weapons or swords in the game currently. Again, you just have to level up your, you know, heavy melee, stop focusing so much on your light melee and start leveling up your heavy, because if you're like me, your heavy melee is going to be really low. I'm like 31 levels right now behind my light melee. That's significant. So that's going to make a huge impact on how much damage I can do with these swords. So let's go switch over to tools now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch over to the pickaxes first, and we're going to go through how good these pickaxes really are. So I've got the gilded, the diamond, and then the opal pickaxe here. We're gonna start with the gilded. We're gonna hop down here, and we're gonna do the slate. So now it's kind of dark, so I'm gonna turn off shadows. There we go. So you can see here, we're gonna count how many hits it takes to destroy a slate ore. So let's go and start with the gilded. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So one thing to note, it did take 10. It almost only took 9 though. You saw that it was a little sliver left, and that's because of my level here. My level is 73 currently. So if your mining is higher than mine, then clearly it would have taken that one less hit. But if your mining is a lower level than mine, you're going to take a lot more hits than I am, because the mining damage is dependent on this, right? You got a percentage of base damage, and it is scaling by percentage. So it's going to be even more drastic the higher level you are, because the more you level up, the more damage you're going to be able to do. So now we're going to try the diamond one. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Almost only 7 on that. So that is 3 better than the gilded. And let's try the opal now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6. So it's all based on the damage percentage and your level. So you got to be careful with that. But I would say this tool is definitely worth getting. I think out of all of the Underworld items, this is probably the most go-to item in the game. I would say this is probably the most valuable to me, despite the fact that, yeah, it's cool to have the sword. Yeah, it's cool to have the axe, and as well as the dragon pet, this little guy. I just don't find these as useful as this thing. This is probably the most useful thing inside of the Underworld, besides even magma. Magma's actually really cool too, and that is a really great block. But we're not talking about blocks right now, so let's get back to this. Let's go test out the axes now. So I have some hickory on my island. We're going to get out the axes real quick. So we got the gilded steel axe, we got the diamond axe, and then we got the rebellious opal axe that wants to face left. It really wants to face left. So that's going to trigger some people, I think. So let's go over here, and we're going to test it on this tree and see how many hits it takes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 hits on that for me. Again, it is dependent on your wood cutting. So we got 12 hits on that. Let's switch to diamond. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 4 less hits. Huge difference in damage. And then let's try the opal. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So 2 less hits with the opal. So, you know, you're already saving 6 from the gilded. 6 less hits on hickory. That's huge. So opal is doing a lot of damage. I would say it's worth it if you cut a lot of trees. It's not so worth it if you don't. You could probably get by with just a diamond axe. Diamond axe is going to one-shot a lot of things. You can see here, I'm going to use diamond against the pine. So it's 2 hits. It's going to be 2 hits for opal. So you can see it just depends on your wood cutting levels. So 2 hits with opal, 2 hits with diamond. And that's for my current level. And, you know, I can go over here and try the same thing on spirit. I'll show you spirit real quick. So this one's going to be with diamond. So 1, 2, and 3. And then with opal, 1, 2. So 2 hits with opal on spirit trees. So this is kind of nice if you're just trying to like run through and do spirit trees. Only 2 hits. It's really nice. And I just leveled up my wood cutting. Nice. In summary, right now, as of today, if you were going to go grind the game today, because as I said, the devs are constantly balancing the game. Tomorrow, the stats might be different. A week from now, a month from now, a year from now, stats might be different. So as of today, here's what I would recommend you set up. This is what I would recommend. Here's my loadout. I use Captain's Rapier for anything loot based, right? So if I'm trying to get a lot of loot from something, I'm going to use this sword. If the server is really laggy, I'm going to use this sword. And then I would use the Dragonslayer for anything damage. If I don't really care about the loot and I just want to damage something really fast and the server is laggy, I'm going to use this. If I don't care about the loot, this is my second item. Next up, this is really my go-to because I'm going to heal myself. So if I'm working with mobs that are going to constantly be hurting me or even a boss, I'm going to use this. And this is the best spell item in my opinion. Next up, I'm going to be grinding slimes or a lot of, you know, maybe there's a bunch of mobs that are bunched up together. I'm going to use the title because the title will actually do a chain effect. So this is a great one to be able to kill a bunch of slimes at once. And that's it. This is my loadout. Now, of course, you know, these are really good items. If I were to remove something, I would probably remove the Dragonslayer. I don't think I would remove the ruby. I would say ruby's still my favorite weapon in the game because again, healing is huge. It's a huge time save. I would also remove title if I had to because it's very similar to this, right? So I would say if I only had 2 weapons in the game, it would still be Captain's Rapier and the ruby staff. Really close second on Dragonslayer though, because again, Dragonslayer is going to do the most damage right now for a melee. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit that like button and smash the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next vid. Peace.